Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's live stream AMA. I'm sorry we're starting a few minutes later than usual today. Usually, when we're late, it's Luke's fault. Today, I was about to click go live and I spilled matcha all down myself. So, things happen. We're real people, but we've got a lot to share with you today. I'm just going to tell you right now the topic of today's live stream is staking. We've got so much to share with you. It's gonna be a good one. So let's bring up Luke. And if you have questions, throw them in the YouTube live chat or the Twitter live stream.
Hey guys, yeah, no, it's been a busy week for us. Yeah, I'll just kind of give you guys the laydown of everything that's going on. So staking, we'll dive into it, right? We're going to show you guys what exactly staking is today, how it works. We're going to kind of demo it live today. And then yeah, staking, it's going to go live, targets end of this week. So expect it very soon. And then what we'll do today is we'll kind of go and explain, like we'll walk through the white paper, we'll explain what it is. We'll show you guys how to use it, how easy it is. We'll answer a bunch of questions on it because I know there's going to be a ton. And yeah, we'll kind of go through basically every single thing with it. And then we'll also kind of talk about some of the like core game stuff too, right? We made some changes to some of our strategy with core game. We went into that last week a little bit, right? We kind of explained to you guys the way that we're rethinking some of the things. So when you dive into this white paper when we release it too, we'll kind of go into some of the things we think have been working well inside the Pixel ecosystem, some of the things that we're changing, some of the things that have not gone so well too, right? What's great about Pixels is we've gotten to kind of uproot and change the game economy like 5 or 6 times in the game's history, right? And staking is actually probably going to be the biggest change to the Pixel economy, maybe since we released Pixels, right? It's going to change the way that players interact with the token. It's going to decentralize token decisions a lot more. And it's going to kind of put more say into the players' hands of how the future of the ecosystem works as well, and change the way that they earn as well too. That's a big one. So yeah, I can maybe just kind of go into the high level of why we're making these changes really quickly, the thought process, what we're thinking, what we're seeing, and then we'll dive into showing you guys what staking looks like. The easiest way to explain staking is to show you what it looks like first, and also kind of go into like what it is, right? Because at first staking, it looks very simple, but there's a lot behind it, right? There's so much meat behind how this staking system works, right? The idea and what we wanted was we wanted to be very simple for a user to participate inside of an ecosystem when there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes there that leads to a better, more sustainable ecosystem that's more decentralized, that's putting more weight into the player's hands and creates better long-term incentive alignment too. So incentive alignment is something that we have been talking about at Pixels since basically the very beginning, literally since we first minted the NFT. If you remember some of the history of Pixels, we did something very unique when the Farmland NFT was initially minted, and some people did not like it. Now it's kind of become the standard in the space, right? We did one of the first play to mints in the space. I will actually give credit to Duskbreakers, if you guys remember that NFT collection, for doing the first play to mint. But we were maybe the second or third play to mint ever inside of Web3 gaming or just Web3 in general. And what we did was, if you guys remember in 2021, if you wanted to mint an NFT collection, it was kind of silly. You had to kind of go in Discord and grind and post. It didn't really make sense. What we said back in the day was we wanted players and people who cared about the ecosystem and people who showed commitment to the Pixels ecosystem to have the opportunity to mint the NFT. Because what we wanted was we wanted more NFTs into the hands of players and people who actually believed in the long term of the ecosystem. And that's always been the intention with the Pixel ecosystem as well, right? We were actually the first to play the airdrop that was ever ran, right? And now it's a standard inside of Web3 gaming in almost an annoying manner, right? But play the airdrop was coined by the Pixels team. We ran the first one back in 2022, and that was, you know, still in the same lines of the intention of what we're doing here with staking, right? Now, if you also follow historically, you actually know that I was actually kind of anti-staking for a long time, because I have the opinion that a lot of how staking was implemented in other ecosystems was kind of a band-aid solution. Basically, how people did staking previously was, they kind of said, we don't have any token utility. How can we give token utility? Let's just do it through staking. And what they did was they basically reserved some of their emissions from a token. And instead of doing anything useful with them, they literally just reserved a set of emissions for stakers. Now, that's actually not what's going on here in the Pixel ecosystem. What we've actually done is we've developed kind of a decentralized publishing system. And that sounds kind of weird when I say it that way, right? But the core of it is very simple. Essentially, when you go to stake Pixel, now what you're doing is you actually are voting. You're kind of using, it's almost like governance in a way. And what you are deciding is you're deciding in the long run who is going to be getting pixel emissions. And when I say pixel emissions, I mean what game is going to be getting pixel emissions. That's pretty crazy, right? What we're actually saying is we want core pixels to have to be competitive against other games inside of Web3 and eventually even Web2 when it comes to what game is getting the top level pixel emissions. And when you go to stake, that is going to be the vote and the decision that you're making. What game do I think is actually going to be the best? What game is going to actually be one of the difference makers in Web3? And when you go and stake, you'll be rewarded for those decisions that you make as well too. So I think maybe it's going to be easiest just to show you what it looks like first, and then we'll kind of dive into the details of what exactly is going on when you do this, and we'll kind of go through some of the practical side of things, and we'll also go through the rollout too, because we're going to gradually be releasing features that decentralize the staking system more and more and more. And it's going to be important to understand what that looks like, because that will affect the early decisions that you make when you go and stake. So this will all be transparent. This will be kind of set out inside of a white paper that we'll be releasing when staking goes live. And you'll get to make these decisions for yourself too. But it's cool. I am very confident that some of the things that we're doing here when it comes to staking and app tokens and like some of the platform stuff, it's all interconnected. It's crazy how many systems are kind of working together here at once. But they're going to be industry standard. I know this for a fact at this point. Just like how Play to Airdrop became industry standard, some of the stuff that we're doing here just makes sense. And I'm very certain, especially the app token integrations that we're doing, will become industry standard as well. So that's the cool part about being with the Pixels community. You get to be a part of like the edge of Web3 and a lot of the experimentation, right? It's funny. We are historically known for shipping fast, quick, and updating a lot. I know some of the community hasn't seen some of the game updates that they want as quick as they want sometimes, but still, I do think that we've been releasing more than anybody else inside of Web3. And this is one of these areas where you're going to get to be kind of on the edge of the new stuff happening in Web3. The key thing that we've been thinking about a lot is, and what we want to make sure of is, are we actually building something that's going to work in the long run? And are we creating a hardened ecosystem that will stay for the next 100 years? Hopefully 100 years, right? But that's the way that we have to think about things, right? Like, this is not a short-term thing for the contributors of the Pixel ecosystem, right? We want to build something that actually lasts. And that means we have to make something that works. So a lot of what we're doing here is we're changing some of the key strategy that we've had before, because some things worked well at Pixels, clearly. Pixels grew to over 1 million daily active addresses. And, it's only been done once before inside of Web3 gaming by Axie Infinity, right? That's an awesome accomplishment, but it doesn't mean that we had everything right. So this is kind of the next stage of, how do we actually make sure that some of the fundamentals behind the Pixel ecosystem are more sound than before? And when we think about fundamentals, one of that, and the key point here, is how do we actually make sure that the games inside the Pixel ecosystem are, good enough and able to be competitive against Web2 games without the incentives. Two, how do we make sure that tokens are getting into the hands of players who actually believe in the ecosystem in the long term and who have the ecosystem's best interest in mind too? How we've kind of been thinking about this is we want to think about players more like contributors to a network, right? I'm a contributor to the Pixel ecosystem. Heidi is a contributor to the Pixel ecosystem, but so is every single person listening to this AMA, right? And what we want to figure out, and what we're kind of working on too, is like, how can we actually make the people who are active in the ecosystem like valuable contributors too, and how is that going to be rewarded more too, right? One example of something that maybe was not contributing to the ecosystem was a player who was just coming into the ecosystem who has like really no long-term intention, like kind of the mercenary style player, right? Who is just there to earn solely for earning, and then they want to leave the ecosystem. They're not having fun. They don't like what Pixels is building. They just wanted to take earnings and then leave, right? Now, there is some benefit to a player who has that mindset. I'm not saying it's a zero value, because having DAU and having volume in the marketplace, that's an important metric, right? But there actually probably are people who are contributing more to the Pixel ecosystem than just that type of player, right? Like, for example, players who are tweeting and making content, players who are actually helping give feedback and ideas to the game and ecosystem. And now we're actually offering more opportunities for that through staking, through the system, all of that too. So let's dive into it. We're going to show you guys what staking looks like. We'll answer some questions, and then we'll kind of go into like every single little piece about how this works. Because again, it's very simple on the front end, but there's a lot going on in the back end. So let's get to it. Then if you see any good questions, Heidi, if you could star them, that would be awesome. But yeah, Here we go. This UX is so simple, right? So here's how it works.
Zoom a little bit.
Huh?
Can you zoom a little bit? Yeah, good, awesome. That's perfect.
Okay, so what you're going to do when you want to go to stake pixel is you're going to go to staking.pixels.xyz. It's that easy. And what you're going to see is this should be a relatively familiar UX, right? When you go to stake. And I actually have some extra settings here. I maybe should have used a different account when I'm staking. Like I have a pause button. This is my admin account, right? But what you're going to see is you're going to see a list of games that you're able to stake Pixel to, right? Now, this is pretty similar to a normal staking ecosystem where when you go to stake, you see a list of validators, right? And you have to choose the validator that you stake to. Now, it's the same exact concept in this ecosystem, except we're replacing the concept of validators with games, right? So the high level of how it works is, one second, let me refresh. Yeah, we basically are transforming here. I'm reading from my cheat sheet. We're transforming the traditional validator model, turning games into the primary validator of the Pixels ecosystem. So how it works is you're basically going to choose which game that you have to stake your tokens to. You don't stake in general the Pixel token. You actually have to make a choice when you stake, right? And when we first launch, there's going to be 3 choices, but there's going to be more coming very soon. So basically, look at this. I have 3 games to choose from. I have Pixels, Forgotten Runeverse, and Pixel Dungeons, the 3 games that are using the Pixel token inside of the Pixel ecosystem right now, right? Now, you guys all know Core Pixels very well, right? When I go and click on Core Pixels, I'm going to get to see information about the game, right? I'll see a trailer, all this kind of stuff. Then I'll also get an idea of the rewards, right? So how these rewards work is you're going to start to see more history. Now, the difference between this staking system and normal staking systems is that the APR that you get from this staking system, it's not predictable. And we'll explain to you how this works, but we'll just show you right away before you have to do anything. So when I go to a game, right, I get to choose the games here. I'll get some information about the game. I'll get to see the different rewards that they've distributed before, right? Like you can see that they've given out, 556 pixel to their stakers before. You can see that there's 149 pixels staked to this game right now, and you can see an estimated APR, right? So I can go and make my choice. I'll go and look at all of these different games. If I want to go play it, I can go and look at it, right? And then after I do my research, I can go in and I've made my decision. I want to stake to Core Pixels. I just choose how much pixel I want to stake. I confirm. And it's literally that easy. And now I'm staking. So yeah, you can see now that I have 10 pixels staked to Pixels. And then I just kind of sit back and wait after that, right? There's a pretty clean dashboard here. I get to see what exactly I did. I have a few different options when I go to stake. If I want to unstake, I can do that. There is a lockup period on staking. This is just a test value right now, but we're going to make the lockup period basically the time that it takes to unstake your pixel anywhere from 72 hours to 5 days. I think we were planning on 5 days, but I think we're actually going to roll it back to 72 hours to 3 days for the staking period. I have the option to restake my pixel too. So if I'm getting rewards from pixels and I just want to restake, I have that option as well. And then, yeah, again, it's that easy. So, it seems super simple, but what's going on the back end? Basically, how it works is, you get to choose what game that you put your pixel into, right? Now, there's going to be some stuff that goes on the back end on why it matters. Yes. So, guys. Oh yeah, that's very.
There's a lot of questions about this in chat right now, and here's your answer.
Yeah. So APR, we're going to talk about APR and what that means, right? APR is not a fixed calculation, right? So how the APR works for each game is it depends on one. Here we can go to the game page, right? It depends on how much pixel is staked, right? So that's very important. Because the more pixel that's staked to a game, the less APR it's going to give out for the same rewards. Here's a really good math example, right? Say that there's 1 million pixels staked to the game, right? And say that this game is giving out, 1 million pixel in rewards a month, right? That means that, for every single pixel that you have staked, you're going to get 1 pixel back a month, right? So if you go out and stake 100 pixel, you can expect 100 pixel back for the month, right? Now, if there was only 1,000 pixels staked and the game gave out 1 million pixel, then that would be 1,000 times the rewards and 1,000 times the APR, right? So the APR calculation is interesting because how this actually works and where the rewards are coming from stakers, it actually is up to the game on how many rewards that they distribute back to the user base, right? Now, how this works in the long run, basically, is games will need to compete for stakers, right? Games need to make it attractive for stakers to stake to the pixel game or games need to make it attractive to stake pixel to each game. And why would they want to do that, right? Why would a game ever want to give out rewards to pixel stakers? Does that really make sense? Does it? It does. Because there's going to be rollouts of staking. And here, I'll share this actually, because I think this is important to kind of go over how the rollout of staking is going to work. So staking is coming out in multiple phases, right?
Can you zoom in more? Yeah, that's better. Cool.
There's going to be a rollout of phasing or staking, basically. So the first stage of staking, how it's going to work is basically each game will get a fixed amount of emissions to give out to its users as rewards, right? And these are predetermined right now. So initially, Core Pixels will be getting 20 million pixel every single month to give out to its players through rewards. Core Pixels, you guys already know how this works. We give it out through Taskboard and other systems, right? Pixel Dungeons, they get 2 million pixel to give out to every single user inside of the gaming ecosystem, right? So they give out 2 million pixel of rewards and they get something back from it, right? And Forgotten Runeverse, they're getting 5 million pixel to give out to players every single month right now, right? Now, what you have to think about is what do they do with that pixel and how are they giving rewards back, right? So Core Pixels, there's a bunch of in-game spend in the game right now, right? Core Pixels, we want to make it very competitive for you to stake to our, pixel validator, because what we want to do is we want to actually compete against the other games, right? So we are going to give a percentage of the in-game activity that happens inside of the game ecosystem back to stakers as rewards, right? And we have a certain amount of budget that we can give out. This is where this ties in with this concept of return on reward spend, right? I've been talking about return on reward spend for so long, and this is why it matters so much in staking, right? And this is probably a metric that we're going to surface to you guys a bit more obviously soon. But return on reward spend, what is it? It's this metric that we've been talking about for so long. Basically, it's a measure of how much revenue that the game gets compared to the amount of rewards that it gives out, right? So right now, Core Pixels, it's actually performing a little bit better. It's at about like 0.8 right now. So for every single pixel that we give out, we get 0.8 pixel back, about 80% of it back. Now, think about if we wanted to be competitive in a staking ecosystem, right? Pixel Dungeons, this is a great example actually, has better return on reward spend than Core Pixels. So, if Pixel Dungeons gets 2 million pixel to give out, they're getting like 0.9 back or close to 0.1. I think they're over 1 in some months, right? So if we give them 2 million pixel, they actually have about like 1.2 million pixel if they're at like a 1.2 return on reward spend to give out, right? And they're actually semi-profitable, right? Now what that means is if they wanted to be competitive against Core Pixels and they had the same budget as Core Pixels, they would actually be able to give out more rewards to their players than Core Pixels would, right? So the return on reward spend for each game is actually a very important metric to know, because that might influence who you want to stake to when we move into dynamic pools. So right now, when staking goes live, right, there are fixed emissions for each game. So maybe you want to do some calculation on like what you can maybe expect when it comes to the rewards that each game will distribute. Core Pixels gets 2 million pixel a month. If they have a return on reward spend of about 1, and we start to give out rewards from the Core Pixel or the Pixel Dungeons, in-game revenue, then right now you can maybe expect like what if their return on reward spend is 1, and it were to give out like 80% of its in-game spend as an incentive to stakers, that maybe is like 1.6 million pixel going back to its stakers every single month, right? If Core Pixels is at about a 0.8, right, where that means we have 20 million pixel to give out, that means there's a 16 million pixel budget to give out to be competitive to stakers every single month. If we give out 80% of that, like we normally have been, instead of putting it to community treasury, that will be about like 12 million pixel that can go out to stakers every single month. Now, the key difference is, why would a game want to give out rewards? It's going to be when we switch to dynamic pools, right? So we're going to move to basically be splitting the top level pixel emissions depending on how many people stake to each game. That's going to be a huge change to the pixel ecosystem. So basically what that means is if Core Pixels has, 10 million pixels staked to it, and Pixel Dungeons, for example, also had 10 million pixels staked to it, we would be splitting up the rewards and the reward budget 50-50 if we were doing it fully, right? So Pixel Dungeons has a much higher incentive to basically give out more rewards to its stakers to be competitive against Core Pixels, right? And really, whoever has the highest return on reward spend per scale will start to get more pixel budget in order to give out to their players, and they'll end up being able to return more rewards to the stakers of each game. Does that make sense? It's a little complicated at first, but I hope it makes a little bit of sense. Essentially what this is, here, we'll just kind of go into it. This is a decentralized publishing model, right? So unlike typical staking, you're actually selecting a game to support in the long run. And what you're kind of making a bet on is which game is going to be returning most rewards to you, right? So you get to allocate your tokens into a game pool. You get to vote on which game deserves the ecosystem incentives, right? You're not particularly bullish on Core Pixels, but you're more bullish on another game inside of the ecosystem because you think it's going to, perform better. Then that will be a choice that you get to make, right? Now, how we're going to do the this phased rollout, basically, especially when we get to the dynamic pools, is basically what we're going to do is we're going to reserve a certain amount for Core Pixels at the very beginning. So when we go to dynamic pools, basically we'll probably have 10 million pixel reserved for Core Pixels, and then the rest of it will be voted on. So we're always going to guarantee or at least at the beginning stages, we're going to guarantee a minimum amount of pixel that Core Pixels will be getting. We'll start to lower that as time goes on. And we might even allow that to be voted on by a DAO, for example, right? So for example, if the DAO, kind of determined by pixel stakers, decides that they don't want to protect Core Pixels and its emissions any longer, and they want to be fully competitive against other games, like they're going to say that, hey, Core Pixels needs to have a competitive return on reward spend compared to every other game in the ecosystem. If it wants to get pixel emissions, it has to basically have people stake to it, and that'll be a decision that the DAO can make, right? Now, at the beginning stages, the games that can join the pixel ecosystem, they're going to be semi-curated, right? It's going to be determined by core ecosystem contributors to the foundation on what game can join the pixel ecosystem, just like we did with Pixel Dungeons, just like we did with Forgotten Runeverse. But eventually, we're going to open up this pixel ecosystem and the staking ecosystem to anybody. So any game will be able to join in the long run, right? And that's when things start to get really interesting, right? Now, this only really works because a game won't be able to convince anybody to stake to it unless it can actually give out rewards to its stakers, right? So it kind of needs to be ready to monetize. It kind of needs to be ready to actually compete against other games. If it's too early stage, nobody's going to want to stake to it because it won't be able to give out any rewards to stakers, right? Unless it augments it with something else. But that's kind of the next stage. And then the stage after that would basically be bringing this more to like stables in Web 2, right? Because what this actually unlocks is if we get every game with a return of reward spend over 1, if the system is actually competitive, this system should work with USDC or fiat, and we can start to bring in Web 2 games or games that are not even necessarily crypto still into this crypto ecosystem. So that's kind of a long term here, right? So that essentially how you can view it is you're kind of voting on what games start to receive a user acquisition budget, right? These games compete for you to vote on them, and you get rewards as you're voting. I hope that makes sense. Now, if you actually want to go stake, again, it's super easy. We showed you how this works, right? And I know some people have questions about in-game staking too. So again, this white paper will be published when staking goes live. You'll get all this information there too. But again, we also have introduced like a few new concepts in addition to all this staking stuff. So we'll go through that. One being, well, I think maybe we talk about the app token first. So what we're also introducing here about staking too is we're also introducing some other systems to align players, right? So we talked about this concept of vPixel last AMA, right? vPixel will not go live with the initial release of staking, but will probably come, if I had to give a realistic time frame, we're going to shoot for June 1st, right? It's in development already. We've been working on it. But essentially what vPixel is we're going to introduce a new token inside of the game. Or not inside of the game, actually outside of the game. In game, if you play Core Pixels right now, everything stays the same. You won't see any difference in game. You're not going to have 2 token balances, any of that. But we are introducing another on-chain token. It's going to be called a vPixel, right? And vPixel is an app token. It's an ERC20, right? And the idea here is this is actually coming out, with the release of staking. We're introducing something called a farmer fee, right? So what we're going to be doing is if you want to withdraw the Pixel token moving forward, we're introducing a farmer fee. The farmer fee will be tied to your reputation. So basically, the more reputation that you have, the lower farmer fee you're going to pay when you go to take Pixel outside of the game. But if you don't want to take your Pixel outside of the game, you can just leave it in there. What we're going to do is if you have an in-game balance of Pixel, we're going to stake it on your behalf. And then we'll get back to the vPixel stuff after. So how in-game staking will work is if you never intend to withdraw your Pixel, you're actually in a good spot because what we'll actually do is we're going to simulate staking on your behalf. So if you have an in-game balance of Pixel, there's going to be 2 requirements, right? Just so that we can give more active players more Pixel rewards if you have an in-game balance, is you need to have 100 Pixel in your account and you need to at least log in once a month. So if you do that, we'll simulate staking on your behalf and you'll actually basically be staking just by having in-game balance, right? The reason why we're doing this is we don't want to punish anybody for wanting to spend their Pixel. That would be silly, right? So what we'll actually do is we'll still make it very easy for you to have the balance in game. That way you can still use it in game if you want to, or you can have it staked if it's just sitting there as well too. Now the cool thing is if you have an in-game balance, what we can also do is we can give a boost for owning land, right? So if you own a farmland NFT, how this will work is In game, the staking calculation is a little bit different than out of game, right? So if you're staking out of game, the split of pixel that you get is very simple, right? So here, let me just bring up this again too. If I go to my stake,
Wait, we're not seeing it.
yep. If I go to my stake in the normal pixel side of things, right? Here I have 10 pixels staked to core pixels, right? Now, my calculation for the amount of rewards that I will receive when it comes to staking to a game will just be basically my percent staked compared to the total stake, right? So if the game were to distribute 100 tokens of rewards, and I have 10% of a token staked, then I'll get 10 pixel, right? I will get 10% of the reward staked. Now it's going to work a little bit differently in game because we're going to be adding a boost to land, right? So if you want the best APR strictly for staking, it will be advantageous to have staked on chain if you don't have any land. But if you have land, then it makes sense to stake in game in the early stages. Now, this is where the app token stuff will be helpful because you won't have to pay a farmer fee if you want to move your pixel balance on chain. But in the meantime, if you stake in game, you'll have this boost from land. So how it works is the calculation in game is a little bit different, right? Basically, there's this concept of staking power where if you have a farmland NFT, you still need to have a pixel balance in game to basically simulate staking, but you'll get advantages if you have this NFT. So how it works basically is each farmland NFT that you own will either give you a 10% boost or a cap of like 100,000 pixel. So how this works is basically the more pixel that you have, like if you had a million pixel, that would be your cap out. You'll start to get more and more boost from the land NFT, right? But basically they'll cap out. So if you have over a million pixel, you won't keep getting a 10% boost. It'll cap out to like 100,000 pixel worth of power, basically. I hope that makes sense. The formula is right here, basically. So it's basically each land stacks on staking power, no matter how far you go. But the staking boost will be 10% land, capping out at 100,000 pixel per land. So basically how it works is, say that you had 1,000 pixel, right? And you had 5 farmlands. That would be a 50% boost to your staking power. But if you had a million pixel, or maybe 10 million pixel, or 2 million pixel, right? And you had 5 farmlands, that would be a 500,000 pixel boost to your staking power, right? It wouldn't be a 1 million pixel boost because it caps out at 100,000 per land, right? This is just to make it so that one whale with 200 lands doesn't have a 2000% like boost, and they take all the pixel from other people, basically. So we wanted to cap the amount of like staking power so there's a balance between whale and normal player, right? Because if you don't have that fixed cap per land, basically one whale will be able to take all the pixel rewards from everybody else. You don't want that. You want a balance of the two, right? So I hope that makes sense. And then, yeah, maybe we can go into the concept of like, why would a game ever even join the pixel ecosystem, right? I hope that isn't lost on people. Basically, if a game joins the pixel ecosystem, there's no lock-in, there's no exclusivity, but they get pixel to go out and do user acquisition, right? And it's kind of like a publishing model in Web 2 in a way, right? And yeah, there are going to be more games to stake to. We have a couple lined up already. And there actually has been a lot of inbound interest. So, our goal basically in the first stages, if we go back to this phased rollout, is we are still going to curate like the core pixels contributors, which games come into the ecosystem in the first stage, especially when we start to open up dynamic pools. Just because we don't want a game that's just going to rug initially and like take initial pixel, though there are decentralized ways to prevent this. Like there will be slashing mechanisms for games that fail to meet a certain amount of rewards returned to users. We just want to kind of de-risk that, in the early stages. But this is what the open pools means. So basically, we're also working on the system. And this part is a little up for debate. I don't actually think we're going to have a RORs requirement, but we're going to have like a DAU requirement or some kind of in-game activity requirement that we can read on chain that lets anybody join the ecosystem, and then you guys get to make the choice. But yeah, there will be a few curated partners that are going to be joining this ecosystem too, that you can stake to. And when the dynamic pools come out, that's when it starts to get very interesting, because you'll basically get to stake to games that you think will be like early winners. And then, yeah, if you make a better decision before other people, then you probably will get more rewards than others potentially. So yeah, that's kind of the high level concept. Now let's go back into the app tokens really quickly and then talk about what is going on there. So yeah, again, we're introducing a new token. It's called vPixel, and vPixel, don't get too scared by it. Essentially, what it is it's a spend only token. It's an ERC20C, and the advantage to using vPixel is you don't have to pay we're going to rename this farmer fee, but it's not liquid either, right? So it's a spend or stake only token. Now, the token is backed 1-to-1 with real Pixel. And the reason why we're doing this is because it can become fungible with Pixel when it comes to spending it or when it comes to staking it. So your V Pixel is worth just as much as a normal Pixel if you wanted to go stake your Pixel, or if you wanted to use it in game or in a partner game too, right? Now, part of the reason why we're introducing vPixel is because there's multiple games in the Pixel ecosystem, right? And how would we actually let you use your in-game pixel balance across multiple games, right? That would be very difficult. So we kind of have to let you withdraw it so these other teams can use these tokens in order to spend it, right? But we still want to have that fee on that farmer fee, right? So this is basically an opportunity where if you intend to fully use the token in game or to stake it, you pay no fee, right? It's pretty cool. Players who intend to stay in the ecosystem by spending, staking, or hopping between partner games, you don't incur a fee. So there will be two ways long term to use the pixel token or to swap vPixel for pixel. The first will be if it's in game, then you'll be able to withdraw pixel and pay a farmer fee, or withdraw vPixel and pay no fee. However, what's cool about the ERC20 standard too is we can move that fee system on chain as well. So that will probably be an option as well. What I'll say is we'll probably have more competitive fees inside of core pixels because we'll be able to adjust via reputation. And if we do it on chain, the on chain version will probably not adjust for reputation. So if you are a good pixels users, you'll probably want to use the in-game functionality so that you don't have to pay a farmer or the same farmer fee. If it's on chain, the fee might be a little bit higher. So
to answer this, yes, it is dynamic.
Yes, the fee is dynamic based on your reputation. And there will actually even be another reputation update going live today, from my understanding.
Yeah. Can you just speak to this? Because I think there's still a little bit of confusion about like where vPixel stands and this whole thing.
No, so if you have vPixel in-game and deposit pixel is converted to vPixel. Okay, so the one thing that the system is missing right now, this is a warning, we're working on this, and we're hoping to have a solution out by the end of the month, is I do feel like there probably should be a like grace for deposited pixel. What we don't want to do is we actually don't want to disincentivize you to deposit pixel into the game right now. And the current system as is, basically, if you were to deposit pixel in game, you would have to pay a fee if you didn't have the reputation, right? If you were to withdraw it, right? That actually is not a good system because it's disincentivizing withdrawal or deposits into the game. We'll do, this is not in the game yet. This is something very important to note though. This is part of the decision-making process that you'll need to make before we get this into the game. The goal is to get this out ideally in the next month. As app tokens go out live too, is we probably want some grace when it comes to if you deposit pixel, you can take the same amount out. That would make sense. That way we don't basically disincentivize deposits. But that is not a feature that will be going live with staking and these farmer fees when it goes out this week. That is something important to know.
Back to the landowner boost here. Can you explain this one?
Yeah, again, think about it more like the power that you get for staking, right? So owning a land is almost like having more pixel, right? It doesn't guarantee you staking rewards, but it acts like you're getting more pixel, right? So when it comes to the percentage of rewards that you're going to be getting, you'll be getting more of the percentage if you own land, right? So basically, if you have think about this example. If you have 100 pixel in game, right, and you own one land, you're going to get a 10% boost, right? So that means it's almost like you have 10 more pixel that you didn't have. Now, the 10% boost works up to a certain amount, right? So if you have 1,000 pixel, that 10% boost still works. So it's going to be like you have 100 more pixel for owning a land. If you have 1,000,000 pixel, it's going to act like you have 100,000 more pixel, right? But if you have 2,000,000 pixel, it's still going to act like you have 100,000 pixel. If you have 3,000,000 pixel, it's still going to act like you have 100,000 more pixel. If you have 4,000,000 pixel, it's still going to act like you have 100,000 more pixel, right? So that's what we mean by the cap, right? And then how the in-game staking distributions will work. This is important to note too. The first in-game distribution will be in 1 month, right? But the on-chain distributions will likely be daily. Now we want to move the in-game distributions through a daily system too. We just need like a month buffer to make sure everything goes well, and that will be daily as well. The daily system is better. Like if you can get the distributions down lower and lower when it comes to frequency, that's more ideal. That way there's not like a monthly sell pressure. So we just want to basically get some time to make sure the in-game staking system works properly. The first distribution will be in 1 month, and then we'll try to get the distribution frequency down, maybe to weekly at first, maybe the daily after that.
Okay, do you have more that you wanted to run through on here, or should we dive into questions?
Let's dive into questions and see what we need to share based on that.
There were tons. I did pull them up as we went. Oh, I laughed at this one. We know you guys do this. Okay. And it's hilarious. Oh, you don't know that? There's been a few different groups of people that do it, and they don't realize each other. They all think they are the first person to think of this. So it just proves how much people like to make fun of us. But basically it's a bingo card. So like mostly for things that you say, I'm going to be totally honest with you. It's like 2 to 4 weeks and they'll like check it off, or like, I don't know, you mention what's something you mentioned? I don't know, something you mention all the time. They'll be like, check. So they have bingo cards. Anyways, there's a few, including our QA team. They made one. So, all right, let's pull up some questions here. Okay, you actually covered a lot of these. This is good. Ooh, okay. This is kind of like a broad question. How will this contribute to endgame?
Yeah, that's a different conversation. So chapter 3, I mean, how this contributes to endgame is, one, this is like a different initiative in the Pixel ecosystem, right? If we want the core game to be competitive against these other games in the ecosystem, we gotta work, right? This team loves the core game, but also it's not fair to the Pixel ecosystem if we're not competitive, right? We have the duty to the Pixel ecosystem as Pixel contributors to also make sure that our game is actually the right one to be receiving top level pixel, and we want that. So the idea is, we actually internally, if you want to know how the sausage is made, we've like changed the internal team structure of the core game.
I've never heard that saying. I'm sorry.
How the sausage is made?
No, what the heck? Go on.
Yeah, it's just like, how is sausage made? There's a whole process.
Sure.
But yeah, what we're doing internally basically is we kind of switched up the team structures. The team's focusing on 2 things: live game services, making sure that we're actually supporting the game. Like I see people asking about task board, for example, all of this stuff, and then core game too. So this way the team can focus a lot more on the important stuff, and we're cutting a lot of the like other feature work basically. But the most important thing for the core game of Pixels right now is we've been doing a lot of band-aid solutions to fix some of our issues, right? And we haven't actually solved the real root problem of like a lot of the core game issues, which is the end game is not that compelling. And when I say end game, I mean, what are the activities that you're doing when you've been playing the game for a long time, right? Really, the only end game feature right now, the only activity that people are doing after they've been playing the game for months, and once they've leveled, and once they've done all of this, it's just doing the task board. And that's actually not such a fun game feature, right? Now, In the white paper, the very first bullet point that we talk about in order to build a sustainable ecosystem is you need fun games inside of the ecosystem, right? And if core pixels isn't fun, we're already failing in that. So the internal team directive right now is we need to actually set aside the time to fix the root issue of the game, which is we need a better end game feature. We need something for you to do with the resources. We need something besides just task board. We need like an element of competition or PvP or PvE, one of those things. So team has kind of started to hone in on what chapter 3 looks like. We've set aside dedicated resources just to do that. So there's another team that's focused on the live game features. There's a team that's literally focused on core end game loops. Now, this is going to be a bigger bet that the Pixels teams makes, where we love the build in public approach, right? But there actually is a certain amount of time that we need to set into actually doing this the right way. That will be a little bit longer before we release something like chapter 3. Now, again, I am an aggressive builder. I want to get this out as quick as possible. We actually have to fix the right issue or the core problem of the game, and it's going to take a little bit of time. So that may mean less frequent updates on the core game side while they go and do their thing. And then we still have a live game team that's going to be addressing the like shorter term pains. And they're still going to get some fun stuff out. Like they're going to be getting task board updates out. They're going to be getting like events out, like all the stuff that we've been doing. But some of the bigger features are going to take a little bit more time because of that.
Okay, this was a unrelated question here, but you want more stuff in the store on the beach. There are things coming. There are. I've seen them. They're cute.
Yeah. Oh, somebody asked, are there going to be more games to stake too? We already brought this up too, but I forgot to mention, like, this is actually like a great example of like, we have the Pets game coming out, right? And the Pets game will be one of those games that will come into the staking ecosystem also. And the Pets game,
I mean, that outfit is giving Winnie the Pooh, and I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's more games coming here too. It's looking better and better every week. I suck at this mini game actually.
I'm so good at that game. I haven't played this version, but I love that game.
Yeah, so there's other first-party titles that we're working on. There's also third-party titles joining. Also, if you know any games that you think would be a good fit too, this is your time to kind of like suggest them also, and then maybe work out something earlier rather than later with them.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. I'm so happy for you. Okay, there were a couple, or there was one.
LOL, 3 months until staking. No, guys, it's like I'm 99% sure it's this week, but it's a 99%.
There was one comment that I just know we get occasionally. So are you ready? You guys want to punish people that want to withdraw from a play to earn game? What a great idea. Do you want to address this?
Yeah, so think about it more like we want to reward people who have a longer term outlook inside of the game, right? So what is happening with that farmer fee? Where is it going? It's going to stakers, right? So it's going to people who actually want to hold the token and be involved in the ecosystem long term. And then also, if you want to spend the token in other games and withdraw a VPixel, there's no fee to pay too, right? So really when you're withdrawing, what you're saying in this particular circumstance is like, I don't actually want to be involved in this ecosystem long term. And that's fine. That's just why you're going to pay a fee, right? And it's going to go to the people that participate in the long term. We're not saying that you can't do it. What we're saying is there needs to be some system that also rewards the long-term people too, right? Because there actually are a lot of people that really love what we're doing, who love the game, who see the vision. And to be completely honest, like that is who we're going to prioritize more. Now you still have the option to go withdraw again. We're not removing that option at all. It's your right to do that. But our focus is going to be aligning the incentives, right? That's one thing that we actually got a little wrong over the last year, right? There were a couple things that we were working on, right? One of the things that we're working on, and we're still doing this, and this all ties into the like decentralized publishing system that we're doing, is we're still working on smart rewards, right? We love that. We love the idea of it. The idea is, can you actually target reward to give it to people who are more likely to hold it in the first place, rather than even doing something like this withdrawal fee, right? No, we realize it's You need both of these things together, right? You want to attack it from the front and you want to attack it from the back. Both of these things work in harmony. But yeah, I mean, that's always been the mission statement. We want to make a sustainable play to earn ecosystem. And this is something that we actually need to do to make it more sustainable, right? There is a semi-tragedy of the commons if you don't implement systems like this. If you don't know what the tragedy of the commons is, it's like an Econ 101 thing, but it's actually a very important concept. Imagine that there's this public field out there for cows to graze on. This is like normally the example that they bring. And anybody is allowed to go and graze their cows at this field, right? One of the issues is, what if there's some selfish people there, right? Or it's not even necessarily if they're selfish, right? Like, people actually don't have to be selfish in the tragedy of the commons in order to achieve a negative outcome. But basically what happens is, if you don't have any rules on this public pasture for everybody, and everybody just takes their cows there, right? The pasture might run out of grass. And it's really not any fault of like an individual, but because there's no rules, everybody's just kind of looking out for their own cows in the short run. They're not really thinking about the bigger system. They're not really thinking about, how do we all take care of this pasture together, right? And that leads to depleted pastures and like no more grass for anybody, right? So that's a really core economic problem that like you can apply it to anything. Like, I lived in the South Pacific for a while, and this was actually a really big thing with overfishing, right? Where people were depleting reefs in like a lot of the South Pacific islands just because they didn't really know better. Like, the Fijian government actually does a really good job of regulating reefs now, where they make people kind of like, fish one reef for like a year, and then they close down that reef, and then they were like, okay, go fish this reef. And they help the people kind of understand how to build out more sustainable fishing patterns. This is the same kind of thing. Like, it's almost the exact same problem, right? Where, we're not saying that you can't withdraw or you can't earn in a play to earn game, but we do actually need to create systems that help achieve better outcomes for everybody, right? Like, that's kind of the core thing of Web3. It's all about incentive design, incentive alignment, and creating better systems that kind of help the whole.
There was a funny comment. I'm not going to bring it up, but I sent you a screenshot of it.
Okay, Chuck, good question. This is why we're introducing app tokens. App tokens again, and vPixel, it's going to be about 4 weeks until it goes live. So apologies, it's going to hurt your APR if you keep your pixel in game to stake in the first stages. But that's why we have the app token coming, basically. That way you can withdraw the token and go stake it and pay no farmer fee. And that's the really interesting part about it. Or you can go spend it in Forgotten Runes, which, they're going to be people don't understand what's going on with the Forgotten Runes thing. Also, every ecosystem partner, how it works is, if they get pixel emissions, they have to return pixel back to stakers, right? So that means they need to monetize in the pixel token. Pixel Dungeons does this. Forgotten Universe is going to introduce pixel sinks into their game too. And then whenever
I'm so excited for them. Oh my gosh. Sorry.
Yeah, whenever you use pixel inside of the game, some of the pixel that's getting used in game is going to go back to stakers to Forgotten Runes, right? That's
Runiverse. Cool. Runiverse. Someone on our team told me it was cute how I say Runiverse instead of Runiverse. I don't know, guys. I think it sounds cuter. But yeah, sorry. Okay, we're at the hour. I can't believe this one has gone by so fast. Is there any last comments you want to quickly go over?
Let me go through them.
I feel like we've gone through so much today.
Staking is fully on chain. If you go through the UX, obviously the in-game stuff is not fully on chain.
Oh yeah, and someone asked for the link. It's not live yet, but it will be staking.pixels.xyz or Z for our Americans.
Is there also an unstaking period? Yeah, we're gonna make unstaking a 3-day period. It was gonna be 5. I'll do it 3.
Okay.
Will there be any rewards for Ron staking on Pixel Validator? Oh yeah, so that's one thing. We've been accruing all that Ron. The other thing that games can do too is, if they want to give more rewards to stakers just because they want to, that aren't just the Pixel rewards, they can do that, right? So if we wanted to incentivize you to go and stake to core pixels, one thing that we could do is get a list of all the stakers and maybe send some of the RON used in the Ronin validator to pixel stakers. Like that would make sense, right?
Okay.
What else? You keep targeting people who withdraw a pixel. What you don't understand is people do that to buy cheaper coins to be able to do board tasks that are too expensive. I mean, yeah. So I mean, it's almost like a tariff in a way. And maybe that's a controversial thing to say right now. But yeah, we do want to basically capture more of the in-game activity and give that to the people who are in the ecosystem long term. Is Pixel X Universe limited time event? Yeah, transparently, like we have an arrangement with them. It'll be at least 6 months. And we hope for it to be much longer. I think this will be pretty fruitful. The cool thing about what we're doing with this system is it doesn't have to be exclusive, and it doesn't have to be, yeah, it doesn't have to be exclusive. Like, it doesn't even have to be like, it can be whatever it wants to be, right? We want to partner with the best games inside of Web3, and Runiverse is one of them, right? We don't need to have any strict requirements on like what else they're doing, like chain, other tokens that they use. Like they don't even have to exclusively use the pixel token if they don't want. What we do care is like if they are getting some pixel incentives, we do want some pixel rewards sent back to the stakers, right? Like that's the only thing that really matters to us. So they can use it as just another part of their UA stack, right? It doesn't have to be exclusive to Core. It doesn't have to be exclusive to Pixel. Anything else?
I don't think so. I feel like there was so much. People are asking for more events. There's things coming very soon. If you remember, we had a huge announcement earlier this month that is launching pretty soon, along with a fun little event that will launch with it.
Yeah, there's a few more questions that are.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, so can we deposit Pixel now when the Grace feature go live? We'll be able to withdraw back out in full. Let me 100% confirm that actually to see if we can track the deposits you make, because this is the best way to do this. If we can make sure that we respect the grace period now and then have the grace respected in a month. But I don't want to promise that without being 100% sure that we can do this. So we'll let you guys know on the grace period for deposits if we're able to get that out when staking goes live or not. Hopefully we can just look at retroactive data and then give you that grace for the withdrawals when that goes live. How do you see the amount of staking returns? You'll basically just get like an airdrop in game or like mail in game with the staking rewards. What else? I think some of you guys are misunderstanding the land boost. So the 100K cap will be per land, not total, right? So if you have 10 lands, you'll get 1 million pixel staking power, right? So you don't have to split into different accounts. Basically, every single additional land is respected and given a boost on top of what you have. Just basically like the amount per land is capped. So basically, it depends on the formula. Really, is like how much pixel you have, right? If you have 1 million pixel, you'll only get 100,000 pixel staking power per land. If you have less than 1 million pixel, you get 10% per land. So it kind of caps out with the amount of pixel that you have, not with the amount of land. But each land, no matter how many land that you have, will give a bonus. Anything else? Wait, let me see if I have a hard stop right here. Okay, let me just look at some more questions really quickly because there is a lot here.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, you were doing tariffs on FAO. No, I mean, tariffs was actually not even the right word because tariffs are actually kind of like the inverse of what we're doing. Really, it's kind of like an export fee rather than an import fee, which is different. But yeah, I mean, a lot of what Web3 games are missing right now are some of these basic economic levers. When you have open economy, you actually need to do this. Every nation does stuff like this, right? Stance is unclear on depositing new pixel in right now. I would agree. We'll give some clarity when the official announcement goes live. The land boost will just affect staking on Pixel's core. That's a good point to bring up too. And that's why it's only respected in game. So land boost is just if you stake the core pixels, right? These other games have their own NFTs to worry about.
I like this. A digital nation. I say ecosystem too much. I'm going to start saying a digital nation.
All right. Any other final questions?
No.
I mean, you're going to get all the info very soon, regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we go and release staking, you'll get new white paper, all of this. Okay, this is a good question. What if I withdraw vPixel, deposit the Runiverse, then withdraw from there as Pixel? So how they're going to give out rewards is a little bit different. They don't have like the same withdraw deposit system. Basically, you'll spend your vPixel in game, and then how they're distributing rewards. I'm not sure if they've announced this yet, so I don't want to kind of like go into like spill their beans, but basically it's gonna be like a monthly leaderboard kind of thing. So you might spend some pixel. The pixel might give you an advantage to earn towards that leaderboard, and at the end of the month, then you might earn some rewards in Runiverse. Okay, I think that's all the questions today. We went through a lot. I'm sure we're gonna get some more. If you do have any other questions, feel free to like ask, maybe on Twitter, maybe X, maybe I'll be in Discord a little bit today. But yeah, there's a lot here, a lot to wrap up.
Let's give out a VIP. Let's do it. This has been a big AMA. Let's give out a VIP. Okay, so as per usual, I literally just hit scroll on my mouse and randomly click on a question in the live chat. So are you ready? All right, we're scrolling. I'm going to go like higher this time than I usually do. All right. And Asperger 23, congrats. I don't think you're a landowner, which is great. So VIP, I already know who you are. I'm so glad. I think you actually just won an avatar from one of our like older campaigns too. So this is so exciting. Congratulations. We will get you a VIP, reach out to support, and we'll get it done. Cool.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks, guys.